Thank you to the commission for having me today. Thank you to the other speakers for being here and expending the emotional energy to help make this nation do right by our ancestors and their descendants. And thank you to you all for being here this morning. My name is Christian Harris. I am the great-great-great-great-grandson of Fountain Blackwell, born in 1807 in Virginia, enslaved. Yes, thank you. I live in the North Lawndale neighborhood of Chicago, and I am the chair of the Oak Park, Illinois Reparations Task Force. Today I'm going to talk about my ancestors and the early black residents of Oak Park and who made their way to Oak Park several short years after emancipation. But today I want you to do more than hear about them. I want you to see those early black residents. I want you to picture them not as pages in your history book, not as random names on a census somewhere, but as the people, the human beings, the Americans that they were. I want you to understand that their story is one of struggle and triumph, hope and sorrow, love and the unthinkable. I want you to both think about the brutal conditions they were forced to live in and the beautiful one-of-a-kind spirituals they made when looking to the heavens. I want you to feel the despair of the hands that touched their husband for the last time before he was ripped away to a plantation far away forever. And I want you to see those same hands taking leftovers from the big house kitchen and creating the most amazing cuisine this world has ever known, soul food. I want you to remember that it's because of them we have American culture at all, from jazz to blues to country, hip-hop, modern pop music, rock and roll, Cajun cuisine, American whiskey, street lights, American slang, peanut butter, civil rights for all people of color, and so much more. These ancestors sacrificed and created so much that we all benefit from today, and yet historically, through no fault of their own, them and their descendants have benefited the least. We owe them a debt, and that's why we are here today. To the ancestors, I love you. I stand before you, amazed at your sacrifice, emboldened by your story, and I carry you with me every day as I try to make this nation do right by you. Like most people who grew up in Oak Park, I was taught that in 1950, world-renowned chemist Percy Julian was the first black person to move there. According to the story, Julian moved with his family to Oak Park, and he remained there resiliently, even after having his home firebombed not once, but twice. So when I came across the 2009 history book, Suburban Promised Land, I was alarmed to find out that this popular integration story of Percy Julian inaccurately labels Julian as the first black person to move to Oak Park. There were black people living in Oak Park. There were black people living in the area that officially became Oak Park in 1903 as early as 1880. 15 years after the end of slavery, black residents were in Oak Park trying to build a life, trying to build community, trying to live. 15 years after they were considered property, there were black residents there owning property. Let that sink in. These were no ordinary folks. These were resilient people, and these early residents created a thriving black community complete with churches, businesses, home ownership. But by the 1950s, when the Julian family moved in, the once thriving black community was gone. So what happened? Although there are many harms I could point to, today I will focus on two main harms that destroyed black wealth and black community in Oak Park, and both center around Mount Carmel Baptist Church. The congregation of Mount Carmel Baptist Church, after years of meeting in a community center, wanted to build the church building of their own. Although the black community was centered around Harlem and Lake, early black residents organized to acquire a piece of land on the corner of Chicago Avenue and Cuyler Avenue in northeast Oak Park. The congregation announced their excitement in the local paper, the Oak Leaves. However, that excitement was short-lived. When white residents caught wind, they were in uproar. History books say even though a village permit for construction of a church had been issued, pressure from surrounding white property owners forced the village to sell and to rescind the permit. Harry C. Weatherspoon, a leader in Mount Carmel Baptist Church, stated, "Many things were presented as excuses for not wanting the church in that community, but under it all, we see a small tinge of race prejudice. This direct act by the village board directly limited the growth of black community and black wealth in Oak Park. After losing the permit, the congregation was forced to sell the lot and eventually found a home in the predominantly black part of Oak Park, near Harlem Avenue and Lake Street. And the church stood for over 20 years, becoming a center of community for Oak Park and surrounding areas. The second instance is the firebombing of Mount Carmel Baptist Church. In the mid-1920s, the area around Harlem and Lake began to increase in value and investment. As the nearby train tracks became more commuter-friendly and retail stores like Marshall Field's opened up nearby, there became a desire to transform the area into the commercial district we know it as today. Reading from the task force research paper, during this time, mysterious fires erupted in the area where black homes and the African American church were located. On Christmas Day, 1928, a suspicious fire caused $1,000 in damage to Mount Carmel Baptist Church. Additionally, many black families' homes were firebombed as well. Eventually, the church was forced to sell, and today, a multi-million-dollar high-rise and Target store sit on the land where the black church and the surrounding black community were. And it is some of the most valuable in Oak Park today. Just imagine if that wealth had stayed in the black community. How different would Oak Park look today? I'll admit it was pretty difficult learning this history. It was pretty difficult living in a town that wronged your ancestors and today won't even acknowledge it happened or repair the harm. It was pretty difficult for me to learn that this history had never been taught in Oak Park schools. It was pretty difficult for me to learn that the names of the streets and the lot numbers had been intentionally changed to make it harder to further trace the community that had been there. But despite learning all of this, I am not discouraged. As a matter of fact, my whole life, from the time I was a child, I always felt like a guest in Oak Park. An invited guest, but nevertheless the guest with no real say or ownership in this town. But doing this work and learning about my ancestors who fought for equality there, who fought to build life and community there, who owned businesses merely a few years after being owned themselves, for the first time, I feel real ownership in this town, because black people were an integral part of that community from the beginning and continue to be today. This coming Tuesday, July 16th at 7 p.m., the Oak Park Reparations Task Force presents to the Oak Park Village Board on our research and our suggested repairs. And I ask that you all flank us with your prayers, join us if you're able, and send us well wishes as we continue to push Oak Park to do right by black people. Thank you for your time. I love you all.